Hello, word enthusiasts, and welcome back to Hello Word, the podcast where we explore the fascinating world of the English language, one word at a time. I'm your host, Alex, and I'm thrilled to have you join me on this linguistic adventure. Today, we're diving deep into the meaning and usage of the word cabin. Our word of the day, cabin, is a B2 level noun, and it means small house or room. So, what exactly is a cabin? Well, in its most basic sense, a cabin is a small, often rustic, house. Think of a cozy retreat nestled in the woods or a simple dwelling by a lake. It's often associated with a sense of escape and tranquility. Now, let's explore how we can use cabin in everyday language. You might say, "We spent the weekend at our family cabin in the mountains." Or, "The cabin was small, but it had everything we needed." The word cabin can also refer to a room on a ship or an airplane. For example, "We booked a cabin on the cruise ship." Or, "The flight attendant asked us to stow our luggage in the overhead cabin." Now, let's look at some synonyms for cabin. One synonym is hut. A hut is a small, simple dwelling, often made of natural materials. For instance, "They lived in a small hut on the beach." Another synonym is shack. A shack is a roughly built or dilapidated hut or cabin. We might say, "The old shack needed repairs." A third synonym is lodge. A lodge is a house or cabin used as a temporary shelter, especially by tourists, hunters, or skiers. For example, "We stayed at a ski lodge during our vacation." And another synonym, although slightly more formal, is cottage. A cottage is a small, usually charming house, often in the countryside. You could say, "They lived in a charming cottage by the sea." Now, let's turn our attention to antonyms, words that have the opposite meaning of cabin. One antonym is mansion. A mansion is a large, impressive house. For instance, "They lived in a luxurious mansion on the hill." Another antonym is apartment. An apartment is a self-contained housing unit that is part of a building containing multiple residences. We might say, "They rented an apartment in the city center." Another antonym is palace. A palace is the official residence of a sovereign, archbishop, or other exalted person. For example, "The royal family lived in a grand palace." Another antonym is skyscraper. A skyscraper is a very tall building of many stories. You could say, "They lived in a penthouse on the top of a skyscraper." Let's consider another antonym, which is castle. A castle is a large building, typically of the medieval period, fortified against attack. For example, "The medieval castle stood atop the hill overlooking the town." Now, let's delve into how cabin can be used in everyday conversations and common expressions. You might hear someone say, "We're going to the cabin for the weekend to get away from it all." Or, "Life in the cabin is simple and peaceful." You might also encounter the phrase cabin fever, which refers to the restlessness and irritability that can result from being confined indoors for an extended period. For instance, after being snowed in for a week, we started to get cabin fever. Here are a few more example sentences using the word cabin. "The cabin was decorated with rustic furniture." "They built a small cabin by the river." "The captain announced that all passengers must return to their cabins." "The smell of pine filled the air around the cabin." "The cozy cabin was the perfect place to relax and unwind." Another usage example would be, "They are planning a getaway to a mountain cabin." Or perhaps "The log cabin had a stone fireplace." A further example of everyday usage is, "After a long day of hiking, they returned to their cozy cabin." You could even say something like, "The children loved playing in the woods around the cabin." Or imagine this sentence, "They renovated the old cabin and turned it into a charming vacation rental." To recap, the word cabin is a B2 level noun meaning small house or room. We discussed its definition, synonyms like hut, shack, lodge, and cottage, and antonyms like mansion, apartment, palace, and skyscraper. We also explored its usage in everyday conversations and common expressions, such as cabin fever. I hope you found this episode of Hello Word informative and engaging. Thank you for joining me on this linguistic journey. Before we wrap up, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to Hello Word and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your support helps others discover our show and continue learning about the English language. And here is a fun challenge. I encourage you to create your own sentence using the word cabin and share it in the comments below this video. I look forward to reading your creative sentences. Until next time, keep exploring the wonderful world of words.